Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today at the BAS Connect webinar. My name is Dan Papaconstantino, and I'm with ManuSonic, and I'll be presenting time and attendance and scheduling fully integrated into Sage. Before we begin, just a couple of things I wanted to mention about ManuSonic. We are a Canadian company. We've been in business for over 21 years. We have customers in Canada, the US, and the Caribbean. We are what's known as a Sage Tech Partner, or ISV, or third-party developer, and we're fully integrated to Sage 300 ERP, Sage 300 CRE, Sage Intacct, Sage HRMS, as well as Criterion HCM products. We've been working with Sage and with BAS Business Solutions for close to 20 years now, and providing their clients with a fully integrated time and attendance solution. A little bit about the vertical markets we serve. I typically talk about not-for-profit first, and I usually do that because the not-for-profit sector, like the healthcare, long-term care, social services, child and family services, they all have very complex requirements and calculations, especially if they're unionized. And so ours is a very custom tailored solution of time and attendance. So we're able to work or implement our solution around your complexities, your rules, your calculations, your accruals. So that sector seems to be one sector that we are doing very well in because of these complexities. The other verticals we work with are professional services, retail, hospitality, First Nations and Indigenous communities, wholesale distribution, field services, and manufacturing and job shops as well. So some of the problems we solve for these industries are as follows: the buddy punching or time theft, where employees are clocking in and out on behalf of each other. So employees who are late or want to leave early have someone else to do that when time clocks are involved. Manual paper time clock cards. So I know that there's a lot of organizations and companies out there who are still manually inputting their time on paper and then having them physically submitted to their managers for approvals, and then someone has to key these time transactions into a spreadsheet and possibly into the payroll timesheet as well. So there's also a lot of errors due to manually keying this time into payroll as well. And then something else that a lot of organizations struggle with is time off. So generating the accruals, especially when the accruals are complex in the way that they're calculated. Our system has an accrual calculator that helps deal with that and calculate the time off. And keeping track of time off balances, requesting the time off, and the whole approval process is a challenge for a lot of organizations. And finally, allocating time to projects and jobs and work orders. This can be challenging for employees, especially if you're using any of the job cost products from Sage or manufacturing, and getting that time that employees are working on these orders or jobs allocated to the jobs in a expedited time is sometimes a challenge. And can take some time. So in terms of what I'm going to go over today, I'm going to talk a little bit about time clock hardware device options. I'll talk a bit about our employee scheduling and advanced scheduling, our web-based timesheet entry, our mobile and tablet apps. I'll talk a bit about the employee portal. And then I'm going to sort of talk a little bit about the administration side of our system, including the pre-payroll process of gathering all the information and calculating things like overtime. And then the integration, the importance of the integration and the data flow itself. So the first device I'd like to talk about is a device called the IT100 by a company called Iris ID. This is a biometric time clock device that uses not just your face, but your iris for recognizing the employee. And so the way that it works is that it looks at your facial characteristics as well as the patterns in your irises. And what it does is it looks at both in conjunction with each other. So when you're trying to get clock in on this device, what it does is it tries to find any parts of your face that it recognizes. So if you're using a mask, then it looks at parts of your face that it does recognize, and then it looks at the irises as well. So the combination of these two things help it to identify the employee. One of the things that we've had a challenge in the past with facial recognition devices is the face can always change based on things like, someone growing facial hair, if they're wearing a hat or a hoodie or a scarf around the bottom of their face. This can cause a facial recognition device to have challenges with recognizing the employee. So the benefit of this device using both the iris and the facial characteristics is that it's able to recognize the employee based on some of the facial parts that it can recognize, and as well as the irises, and that just makes it easier for the device to recognize you. And so the other thing that it does is that there's an optional thermal recognition camera that takes your temperature. So when you clock in for the very first time of the day, it recognizes who you are and it takes your temperature. And if the employee's temperature is over a certain threshold, then it prevents the employee from clocking in, and then an email notification goes to the manager, notifying them that this person has attempted to clock in with a high temperature. The other device that we implement for manufacturing and job shops is a device called SonicClock. This is a ruggedized 15-inch color display with an integrated touchscreen in it. It's a graphical user interface. It's got an aluminum case. It's completely sealed. It's IP65 rated, which means that it's resistant to water and dust accumulation. So for harsh environments, this is a great way for employees to not just clock in and out of work, but to also clock into projects and jobs and work orders. And we bring in these projects and work orders from Sage into our database and make it available for the employees to clock in and clock out of these jobs, so that we're capturing accurate time worked on each of these jobs. And then that information is then pushed back to Sage ERP to update jobs with accurate time transactions. We also have scheduling, and in our system, I guess there's 3 different types of scheduling. The first one is shift management, and shift management in our system is sort of a way for setting up multiple standard shifts that employees are able to work on. And once you set these standard shifts, they can be assigned to employees so that our system always knows what day an employee is supposed to show up on, and what time they're supposed to show up and what time they're supposed to leave. This is kind of a set it and forget it approach to scheduling, because there's no maintenance required. Once it's set up and once the employees link with that shift, then our system will just always know when the employee is supposed to show up. And we have a standard scheduling application as well that makes it easy for managers and for supervisors to log in and set a schedule or a shift for each of the employees over the course of a week or 2 weeks. There's copy functions that make it easy for you to copy these schedules from week to week or from month to month. And it's just sort of a quick and easy way to assign employees to a shift. For those who have very complex scheduling requirements, we do have something called advanced scheduling. The entire system is web-based, but the advanced scheduling system is more of a graphical interface where you can grab and drop schedules from one person to another or one day to another. There's auto reoccurring schedules, so you can set the schedules to reoccur automatically on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis. You can set rotations in this schedule, so you can do things like 3 days on and 4 days off, and then vice versa. There is job cost integration, so if you want to schedule employees against projects, jobs, and phases, you can do that in the scheduling module. There's also a request for shift swap, where employees can log in and see their schedules, and they can request to swap with somebody that isn't working on their shift. I'll talk a little bit about that in the portal as well, but there's also workflow with email notifications and approvals that has to occur. So there's a data flow, a workflow that has to happen when that request is made as well. So for those organizations that want or need their employees to just log in and report their time on a timesheet, this is a browser-based timesheet where the employee can log into their portal, go to their timesheet, and apply a time transaction for the day. They can add multiple time transactions for each day. They can allocate their time to projects and jobs and phases as well in the timesheet. All that information is coming into our database through API integration from Sage ERP. And so they can't make any mistakes when they're applying their time to projects, phases, and categories. And the timesheet is very customizable as well. So by the user, you can add or remove any of the columns, relabel any of the columns as well. So we also have a mobile app. It's actually a mobile and a tablet app. So they're both available in Android and Apple iOS. There's the ability to use the app in a way where you're entering your time like you would in a timesheet, as well as a clock in and clock out function where employees have to clock in and clock out. There is full integration as well in the app and to PJC or project and job cost and service orders. So if you're a service-based company or a job-driven company that has employees that are in the field, employees can clock in for payroll purposes as well as clocking into jobs and service orders using the phone or tablet app. There is geotagging, so when an employee clocks in or out, it will capture their geo coordinates for both the clock in and the clock out. So if your employees are always going from to different locations all the time, those coordinates are captured in the time transaction, and when managers are reviewing time, there's a link in the time transaction. They click on the link, they can see, it'll bring up Google Earth, and they can see where the employee was, exactly where they clocked in and where they clocked out. For those companies who have the same locations or multiple locations, you can set up geofencing or geofences around each of those authorized locations. So when an employee tries to clock in or out from a location that isn't an authorized location, the app will let them know that they're not authorized to clock in from that location or clock out from that location. So they have to be within the geofence to actually clock in or clock out. There's an auto travel calculation function that'll look at start and stops in between all the jobs if the employees are clocking in and out of jobs throughout the day. And our system can automatically take these transactions and turn them into travel transactions. And we can either push them to the job so that the jobs get that travel calculation time, as well as push them to AP if they're reimbursing the employee for travel as well. And then, of course, they can request time off right from the app, and the system will generate an email to their manager notifying them that they're requesting the following day or days off. And there's also a schedule view in it so the employees can view what day they're actually working throughout the pay period. There's an employee portal, so employees can log into their portal. It's very customizable. You can pick and choose what items or features or functions you want your employees to have access to or view. And employees can do things like view their schedules. They can view their own personal schedule as well as their whole department. They can view their time worked. So if they're punching in and out of a clock, they can see their time transactions for the current pay period and previous pay periods as well. They can enter their schedule availability. So if you're using our scheduling app, you want employees to notify you when they're available for work, they can do that as well. There's time off balances and availability. So all their paid time off or bank time, personal leave is all available in a grid. They'll be able to see how much time they've accrued, how much time they've taken, and what their balance is. There's a request for time off from the portal as well, and there's email notification and workflow. So when an employee requests time off, the email gets sent to the manager notifying them of this, and once it's approved, then an email goes back to the employee um, notifying them that they were approved for their time off, and a time off transaction is entered into the timesheet. And as well, the employees can request a shift swap in the portal, again with email notifications, acceptance and approval, complete data flow. When an employee requests to swap with somebody, and an email gets sent to that person they're requesting to swap with. Once the employee accepts the swap, it goes to the manager. The manager gets notified, and if the manager accepts the swap, then it automatically replaces the person who requested the time off in the schedule with the person who has accepted it. So in terms of integration, so first of all, our integration is to just about all the Sage products. So we integrate with Sage HRMS and payroll, as well as Sage 300 ERP, Sage 300 CRE, Intact, as well as Criterion HCM and payroll. The integration that we have with all these products is what's called API integration. So first of all, the integration is bidirectional. So information goes from our system back and forth to each of these modules. The benefit of having the API integration is that there is a validation that has to happen when you're transferring information from one database to the other. So none of this integration that I'm displaying here is an import or export. It's all API integration, and there's validation. So for example, if you're creating a new hire in Sage HRMS, then it would generally flow to payroll. If you're not using HRMS, then you would create the new hire in payroll, and that new hire information gets directly sent into the time and attendance system so that you don't have to rekey that information again. That integration is very flexible, so we can pick and choose what types of things that we want brought in from HRMS to populate the employee's template in time and attendance. So we can pick and choose the information that we want, things like the pay group, the cost center that the employee belongs to, the manager that the person reports to, All that information can be brought in so that it doesn't have to be rekeyed in. Also, on an inbound transfer, we can capture all the job information if you're using project and job cost in Sage. We bring in all the job structures, all the current job structures or active job structures, so the project, the phase, the categories, the entire structure gets brought into our system so that when employees are reporting time in our system against these jobs, they can't make any mistakes. They're active jobs, so the minute you complete a job or a phase or a category, it gets removed from the pick list in the time and attendance so that employees can't allocate their time to projects and jobs and work orders that have been closed or completed. Same thing with the employee information. Once you terminate an employee in payroll, they become inactive in time and attendance, so the employee can't continue to log in or fill in a timesheet or clock in and clock out of the system. All that is with validation. When you're pushing time back into Sage, then there is a validation that has to happen. The employee has to be active. The earnings codes have to be correct. There has to be a timesheet for the employee. And so if there is a problem with the transfer back to Sage, then the transfer will halt and an error report will come up so that the administrator knows what the issues are with the transfer. And also API integration with any vendor that's a third party, it generally means that your integration is fully supported as you update Sage 300 or any of the Sage accounting products. When there's any updates, the API ensures that the update isn't going to be affected in the integration. And so if you're updating any of these systems, there's always going to be an update to the integration from any vendor that's an ISV, so that the integration continues to work and it's not affected. So that's the end of my PowerPoint. I am open for any questions. Amanda, are there any questions for me at this point?
So we currently don't have any questions right now.
Okay, great. So I would just like to say, first of all, if you are interested in our time and attendance solution, the next steps would be to contact your account executive at BAS. We generally start with a discovery call. The discovery call takes about 30 to 45 minutes. We fill out a form, we ask you some questions and talk about some of the challenges you're having with scheduling and time and attendance. And then at that point, we decide whether or not we want to go to the next step and provide you with a demo. The nice thing about doing a discovery call with any prospective customers is that we kind of get to understand what your requirements are, so that when we're doing a presentation, we can sort of custom tailor the presentation to you in a way that makes more sense for your company or organization. And we can go from there. So I just want to say thank you for attending BAS Connect. We look forward to presenting again at the next BAS Connect in the spring. Amanda?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much for that great webinar. Again, thank you to everyone for being part of our webinar today. If you're interested in learning more, as Dan said, please go to our website and you can hit the Let's Talk button. And from there, you can fill out a form and either your account manager or an expert from BAS can get in touch with you about the solution that you're looking for. Again, to help us improve on future webinars, we kindly request your participation in a short survey that will be sent out via email. Again, all BAS Connect fall webinars will be posted on our YouTube channel once BAS Connect has concluded. Thank you, everyone, and we hope you have a great day. Take care.